Hey everybody, it's Alex Dorr, Vice President of People Evolution at Reality Based Leadership. The tool I want to talk about today is our Engaged Action Planning tool. Now again, our tools are proven good mental processes that help us get clarity when there's chaos. They help us facilitate that, and they help the group or the individual get into a better mental process, because a good mental process is the way to get rid of drama or emotional waste. And so what we're going to use is the Engaged Action Planning tool to help us get into one of these good mental processes. Now, many of our organizations are focused on engagement and finding ways to create great circumstances for our teams to hopefully thrive in and get great results. And what we've seen in our research, though, is as we have focused more and more on how can we engage our teams, we're forgetting about a big foundation of accountability that would help really skyrocket engagement and results. And what we have found is we are starting to see an over-rotation on focusing on perfecting circumstances, and it's causing a little bit of chaos in the workplace. And what we know is engagement, or focusing on engaging our employees without accountability, can create entitlement. And so this tool will help us have a practical way to avoid this entitlement mindset and really drop in accountability to figuring out what we could change in our team's circumstances to improve our workplace. And so if you are curious about our approach, reality-based approach to engagement, and how we have seen some flaws in the traditional engagement philosophy, I have linked in the description below a full keynote I gave. It's a podcast episode, so you can listen through where we see that engagement's flawed and how to fix it. Or you can check out Cy Wakeman, our founder's keynote. It's an hour-long talk on this same concept, so you can get yourself grounded in that philosophy. But if you're already doing engagement surveys, pulse surveys, or you're really focused on asking your teams, what could we do to improve your workplace? That's awesome, but I want you guys to think about this tool to drop in accountability there. And so the way the Engaged Action Planning tool works is you start with that list you've gotten from your engagement survey about people's comments about what would improve their workplace so they could do great work. Or you can just ask your teams post-survey, or just to get a sense of what can we do to make it awesome around here. And when you do that, just put up a piece of paper. Again, our tools, we like to get them visible because this helps the whole group see it in a good mental process. And so I've done that here and simulated some of the things you might hear from your teams that they want in their workplace. So we got better communication, we want more transparency, we want better benefits, flexible schedules, we want more opportunity for advancement. All of these things, whatever it is, higher pay, more pizza days, more team building, whatever it is, you write it up there. Now, this is very powerful because typically in engagement philosophy, we ask, what do you want differently? We see this, we go, wow, yeah. And we take this list and we run off and we go as leaders to try and fix all of that list. Now, what often happens, number one, is in the short term, can we do all of this for our teams? Absolutely not. We cannot always pay everyone more or improve our benefits or all of these things. So we get a little stuck because they gave us a list of what they needed and we couldn't make it happen. So that's the first thing that happens when we use this typical approach. The other thing that happens is, let's say I take this list and somehow, some way, I am able to fix that entire list, which by the way might be different for every single person to be engaged. Let's say I fix this list. If we don't focus on cultivating accountability, what might happen if I ask this question again? They come up with another list just as long, and you get into this cycle of constantly trying to fulfill kind of this list of terroristic demands. And so if you're experiencing this, this is the toughest thing about engagement, because this will start to create entitlement, where I ask you for what you need, and if I can't do it, you feel that you're entitled to us being able to fix all of this. And so this really breeds discontent and unhappiness. So what's the technique? With the Engaged Action Planning tool, you have that list, but then you don't stop there. You put up a second sheet of paper and you say, everybody, love the ideas. I want all of this as well. I think they're great ideas. Love our list. But I just have a quick question for you, and here's the magic. What are you willing to do to get that? Given you want all of these things, I just got a quick question. What are you willing to do to get that? Now, the moment you ask this question, a couple things might happen. First of all, people might be stumped because they've never been asked. You just dropped in a question for self-reflection that dropped them into accountability, into a better part of their brain. You bypass their ego into what would I be willing to do to get that? So if I want better communication, what would I be willing to do to get better communication? That is a very powerful question. And so what often happens is this list stays pretty blank for sometimes weeks. And as a leader, don't panic when that happens. Just kind of stay silent and just kind of be reflective and maybe change your energy and look at the list and be like, yeah, what could we do there? And leave that list up. Now, if nobody comes up with anything they'd be willing to do to get that, because we dropped in that question for accountability, shared accountability for the workplace we want, I would just say, well, let's keep thinking on that and we'll reconvene in our next meeting. And then when we walk in, the same visual will be up, all the things we want differently and what we're willing to do to get it. And this is a pretty powerful ego bypass because it's showing that we have no willingness to get the workplace that we want, and it's pretty powerful. After some time leaving these visuals up, what tends to happen is an extrovert or someone in a high state of accountability will raise their hand, and this example happened to us where more transparency was something they wanted in their organization. And after reflecting, a high accountable raised their hand and said, I've been thinking about more transparency, and what I'm willing to do to get more transparency is, you remember a few weeks ago when I called in and said I was deathly ill and really sick? And then over lunch, you caught me at Target trying on clothes and I had to duck behind kind of the racks in the changing room. I suppose I wasn't very transparent about how I was just tired and needed a day off. So next time I will just be more transparent and not lie to you. Wow, that was an amazing step that person could take to impact the transparency of our organization and communication for that matter. So that was super interesting. Another example that happened once is a group wanted change communicated better. They wanted the why statements. They wanted it to be super clear why we were changing. And we really couldn't figure this one out. And with this group, I took a quick break and went and freshened up in the bathroom and splashed some water on my face. And we just were stumped on this one about what would they be willing to do to get better communication around change. And as I came up from kind of the mirror, I looked on the side and there was this paper on the wall. It was really out of place. And it was basically the top 5 change initiatives in the organization and the why statement behind it and how it linked to the strategic plan. And it was beautiful. And it showed how far along they were, like 60% done and some key takeaways. It was this beautiful summary of the top 5 change initiatives and the progress and the why statement of all of them. And what I started to realize is I looked around, it was like on the door as well. It was like on the walls of the organization. I hadn't noticed it until this moment. And so I walked back into that meeting and I said, hey, everyone, just curious, are these the top 5 change initiatives going on right now? All of them were like, oh yeah, how did you know that? You must be like in our walls or something. You must be in our meetings. I go, I just started noticing in front of my face all of the ways it's posted for me to receive that information and know the why statement and the purpose of the change. And so what I realized is the group was really in a state of low accountability and refusing to take in the information that was right in front of them. And so it was a big lesson about what are you willing to do to get more communication around change? It's actually be open to receiving it and being less resistant. And so the key second step of this tool is once this list is as robust as this list, they're even, then we move on to, given this is what you guys are willing to do to get it, that workplace, what can I now do on the third sheet of paper to support that with my resources, access to dollars, access to decision making? What can I now do to support this? But only when I have shared accountability and willingness to get the workplace we want, will I then entertain this third list. And so this is the magic way. If you are currently taking these lists of kind of terroristic demands in from your teams and getting in this cycle of, dang, we just cannot buy these people's love, it's not sustainable. And what is sustainable is accountability. Because again, engagement without accountability creates entitlement. And so here is your magical tool to give to your leaders or to facilitate with your teams to start dropping in this filter of accountability right here. I promise you it's one of the most magical tools, and it will transform the way you action plan after your surveys or pulse surveys or your engagement efforts. And so thank you guys so much. Good luck with this tool. You guys got it, and let's keep ditching the drama.